In honor of the new Strangers film, we're keeping on the theme of extremely loosely based on something that maybe happened to my neighbor once. First off, based on a true story, my ass. The true story this is based on is literally a woman hit a guy with her car and left him to bleed to death in her garage. That's it. Midnighters is directed by Julian Ramsey, the acclaimed director of some episodes of The Walking Dead. It stars Alex Esso and Dylan McTee, and it tells a story of a bunch of awful people doing awful things. Esso and McTee play a struggling married couple coming home from a party on New Year's when they hit a guy with their car, and then spend the time trying to figure out how to get away with the murder. Sounds like a bunch of people who you want to root for, right? I didn't know much about this movie going into it, and I had a few days before my next review was scheduled, so I just figured, what the hell, I'll watch it. I didn't have really any expectations going into it, and I was still disappointed. Midnighters has an interesting enough premise, but it takes every plot element that could have made for a compelling story and throws it out the window in favor of lame conspiracy shit and a bunch of really stupid excuses for twists, all leading up to a climax that's so poorly handled that it takes the movie down from average to just plain fucking stupid. Is there anything I liked about it? I mean, the cinematography is kind of nice here and there. There are a couple shots that are framed really well and look really pretty, but the rest of the film doesn't reflect the quality of those couple of shots. The acting is not good from pretty much anybody. I love Alex Esso. I'm a huge fan of her in Starry Eyes, which is one of my favorite films from 2014, but it felt to me like she wasn't even trying in this film. I know she's capable of better because her performance in Starry Eyes is incredible, but this whole movie, it felt like she was just underacting the entire time. And that's actually the case with most of the performances in this film. Everyone is wildly underplayed here. The only actor who even felt like he was trying at all is Ward Horton, who, at the very least, you could tell he was having fun just chewing the scenery. The two cops who show up at a couple points in this movie are absolutely terrible. You can practically see the cue cards they're reading right outside the frame. This movie also tries to, I guess, inject some humor in their last scene where it just dead stops for a minute for them to talk about getting corned beef at a diner, and one of them thinks that's gross and the other one wants to because it's tradition. I don't get it. Were you trying to develop them? Was that their development? One of them likes corned beef, and the other doesn't. Fucking brilliant. But even if the acting in this film were better, it would still be impossible to be invested in any of these people, because they're all terrible. There's not a single likable character in this movie. You can't root for any of them. You don't give a fuck what happens to any of them because they're all just awful people. The pacing of this film is also really off-putting. Plot points that should have had time spent on them are completely glossed over, while plot points that should be glossed over are discussed in way too much detail. Nowhere are these issues more prevalent than in the final 30 minutes of this film. It becomes a complete fucking mess. Characters start turning on each other at the drop of a hat. There's a torture scene that comes the fuck out of nowhere and serves no real purpose. A guy gets stabbed in the neck and, like, doesn't bleed and acts like it's like just a flesh wound, and keeps trucking on his merry way and acting like he wasn't just stabbed in the jugular. And then the cops show up, even though there was no indication that they were called, and I don't really know how or why. Honestly though, the biggest problem with Midnighters is that it's just so boring. Which I suppose is to be expected at this point, considering it comes from a director of The Walking Dead. There's nothing in this film you haven't seen in a million films like it. It's incredibly lazy, it's poorly written, and it's impossible to get invested because all of these people are just terrible. I honestly considered calling this film meh until that climax, and after that happened, I just would not feel right giving it a score that high. I'm gonna say that Midnighters is poor. It's a movie you've seen 1,000 times before, and you'll probably continue to see for years to come, and I honestly can't really recommend it to most people. I wasn't necessarily insulted watching it, but I absolutely feel like I wasted an hour and a half of my life. Definitely would not say it's worth watching. If you're into cliché crime thrillers, check it out, I guess, but for the rest of you, I'd say skip it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. You can click down there and like and comment and subscribe, and I'll be back this week with a review of The Strangers, all leading up to The Strangers Pray at Night, which comes out on Friday. Oh boy. Thanks, guys.
Boo.